How's it? It's beginning to sound like the police in Brazil think the gold medal for telling tall tales belongs to Ryan Lochte.
Yeah, it's breaking news. Investigators in Brazil still looking into Lochte's claim that he was held up at gunpoint and robbed along with 3 teammates in a taxi following the final swimming events in Rio de Janeiro. But the police say they're having trouble verifying parts of the story. 2 of the other swimmers, Gunnar Bentz and Jack Conger, were pulled off a flight back to the U.S. on Wednesday. This is video from early Thursday morning Brazil time at the Rio airport. Representative of the U.S. consulate says that they will not be able to leave Brazil until they testify about the robbery. Viegas is also still in Brazil, according to USA Today. Lochte back in the U.S. He left before a judge ordered Lochte and Viegas to remain in Brazil. The consulate official spoke with ESPN's Mark Schwartz.
We're told they can't leave until they speak to Brazilian authorities. Can you confirm that?
I can't confirm that. I'm sorry. I can't confirm any information because it's a law that says that we are unable to comment on U.S. citizens because of privacy considerations.
It's for everybody, not just because they're.
It's for U.S. citizens. Yes.
We're told that they reserve the right to remain silent in there. Can you confirm that?
I can't confirm that. I'm sorry. I can't give any more information than I already have.
Were they cooperative?
David Fogelson, I'm the spokesperson for the.
Were they cooperative with authorities?
I would refer you to the Brazilian authorities. I would suggest that you talk with them. You have a police department right here, and I suggest you speak with them, okay?
Lochte's attorney says the robbery definitely happened, but the police, again, have their doubts based on their inability to find the taxi driver or any witnesses. Swimmers didn't call police after the robbery, and in later interviews, Lochte and a teammate told police that they were intoxicated and couldn't remember many details about what happened. Now, surveillance video obtained by the Daily Mail showed the swimmers returning to the Olympic Village seemingly unshaken after the alleged incident. Again, James Viegas also still in Brazil. Wayne Drees has been covering this story and joins us now from Rio. Wayne, the U.S. Olympic Committee released a statement late Wednesday night. What did it say?
They did stand just a little while ago saying, Jack Conger and Gunnar Bentz, they confirmed Wednesday night they were held shortly before their flight was scheduled to depart from Rio. They were released by local authorities with the understanding that they would continue their discussions about the incident on Thursday. Jimmy Viegas is also communicating with local authorities and intends to make further statements on Thursday as well. They said they continue to provide information moving forward. The 2 key parts of that, Gunnar Bentz has been released, and of course that Jimmy's going to still communicate with authorities on Thursday.
You also spoke with Ryan Lochte's attorney. What did he tell you?
He was very adamant during the day today that Ryan did not make any of this up, saying that the story that Lochte gave on Sunday night to authorities is the same story he gave to the Today Show over the weekend, and that is the story, the way it went down. Saying as much as, look, he said, Ryan is the victim here in all of this. He was the one who had the gun pointed to his head. His words and anything else that they suggest down there just simply isn't true.
Now, the penalty for falsely reporting a crime is up to 3 years in jail in Brazil, and the State Department's involved now. This is very serious, but how seriously are the athletes in jeopardy of being locked up if the police can't corroborate their story?
Stan, from what I understand, it's not a situation where you're looking at jail time at all. Really, I think what the Brazilian authorities are trying to do is clear their name. This incident left a very large black eye over these games. A marquee, famous athlete, allegedly getting robbed at gunpoint. And if that, in fact, is not true, the Brazilian authorities want to make that very clear, and I think they'll go to whatever means necessary to get some sort of an apology or whatever the case may be if it proves that this did not happen.
All right, Wayne Drees with the latest from Rio de Janeiro. Wayne, we appreciate the time. Mark Schwartz also joining us now from the Rio de Janeiro airport. Mark, a chaotic scene there as we saw. This has become an international incident. What was that scene like when the 2 swimmers came out?
Well, it was madhouse, Stan. There were about 20 cameras, there were about 30 reporters, and there were a deer in the headlights look on the faces of both Gunnar Bentz, who was in the front, and Jack Conger, who is in the back. As they walked out, they were peppered by media asking them questions, how they were treated inside by Brazilian authorities, whether they were free to go, whether they were free to leave the country, whether the robbery actually happened. They sat stone-faced. They couldn't get through. They couldn't move. They were squirming, not only physically, but emotionally. They really wanted out of that airport. They really wanted out of that interview room where they were being grilled by police for probably 2 to 3 hours. We've been here for the last hour and a half waiting for them to leave, and they had nothing to say. They were told not to say anything, and they didn't say anything inside either.
Okay, so now they've been questioned, and the wording now is that they must testify. That sounds like this could be a situation where they're under oath. What's it going to take for them to be able to come home?
Well, they did have a representative, a Brazilian lawyer with them who did not speak English. But from what I understand, what happened in there tonight was that they were asked to tell their side of the story and to corroborate the facts of the other swimmers' stories, but they said nothing. And the Brazilian authorities said, well, if you're not going to speak with us, you're not free to leave the country. So their passports, we are told, have been withheld. They did leave in a car, but they are not free to leave the country until they explain what happened that night in Rio de Janeiro.
All right, certainly lots more to come on this story. Mark, we appreciate the latest.
In Olympic news, a Brazilian judge has ordered Ryan Lochte and U.S. teammate Jimmy Fagan stay in Brazil while authorities investigate their claim that they were robbed at gunpoint in a taxi while returning to Olympic Village after a party. Police have found very little evidence, and the State Department is urging those involved to cooperate with Brazilian law enforcement. Meanwhile, Lochte's father says his son is already back in the United States. Wayne Drays joins me now from Rio for more on this story. Wayne, what kind of response has there been from Lochte or any of his representatives about this?
Yeah, so his attorney, Jeffrey Ostro, telling me today, emphatically supporting Ryan Lochte and saying the story that Ryan told to Brazilian authorities, the State Department, the FBI, and U.S. OC officials on Sunday night, the same story Ostro says he told the Today Show is absolutely the truth. Going as far as to say Ryan is the victim here. No matter what they're saying down there, let's remember he was the one who was robbed at gunpoint.
What are some ramifications if it is proven that he and the others did happen to provide any false information to police?
Yeah, so Lindsay, we know the beginning of the story and we know the end. The piece we're missing is the middle. And if somehow it can be proven that, in fact, Ryan and Jimmy Fagan were fabricating part of the story, it could be 1 to 3 months in jail, although more than likely what I'm told by Brazilian people is that it would be just a fine.
Okay. I mean, they did say that they were worried about getting in trouble. Any more elaboration to that on why they would think that that would be the case?
No, they haven't, and everybody is super tight-lipped down here, which makes you really wonder what's going on. You know, it's been suggested to me as well that, perhaps it isn't so much any sort of punishment that the Brazilian authorities are after, but a change in the PR of the story, if you will. Let's remember, when this came out on Sunday, it was a black eye in the Brazilian games that an American superstar was in this sort of a situation. And so if they can prove somehow that it wasn't true, I think there's belief here in Brazil that will sort of help somewhat save the face of these complicated games.
All right, Wayne Drays in Rio. Thank you, Wayne.
Top 5 has really been forced on us by Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps, the 2 Olympic titans who are just going nuts right now. So we've crafted our top 5.
Yes.
Together again, greatest Olympians ever. And I go. I'm going to start right away with this Soviet gymnast, Larisa Latina.
Latina?
Yeah. By the way, that's what Olympic venues looked like back in the 50s and 60s when Larisa was doing her thing.
Oh, so elegant.
Yes. She won 14 individual medals, Carrie. 14 individual medals.
Wow. Wow.
All around twice, 56 and 60. You know who this guy is?
No, I do not.
That's the flying Finn, Paavo Nurmi.
Wow.
Paavo.
David, you went back.
Well, I went way back. 9 gold medals. On one day, he won the 5,000, took an hour break, and then won the 1,500.
Wow.
Who made that schedule? And he ran with a stopwatch in his hand, just to make sure.
Just because.
Number 3, the man, Jesse Owens.
Yes.
1936, Berlin. thumbed his nose, and Adolf Hitler up in the box, won the 100, the 200, the long jump, part of the 1x400 relay, did his level best to ruin the Nazi Olympics. Number 2, here's the big debate. Is it Bolt or is it Phelps? I went with Usain Bolt, although, I was saying earlier, there's no one in sports I'd rather watch do anything than Usain Bolt running those last 50 meters. Just unbelievable. But I went with Phelps because of all the medals, 28 in all, 23 gold, yada, yada, yada. I just felt like this guy's still splashing around at the age of 31. He gets my nod.
Yeah, and that is going to be the constant debate. Who is the better Olympian? Is it going to be Bolt? Is it going to be Phelps? It's subjective, I think. I mean, the way Bomani made a good case for it.
He did.
Here's my top 5. I'm completely out of the loop here. Mine are all off, but here we go. Number 5, Carl Lewis.
Yep.
You remember that guy? Won 4 golds in the 1984 Olympics, right in Los Angeles.
Hello.
But when will LA get the Olympics again? That's another story. We'll talk about that.
That's not in this top 5.
Coming in at number 4, Larissa Latina. Did we get it correct?
Latinina?
Yeah.
You know,
listen.
Our judge will be able to give
us the right name on that for sure. All right, 14 individuals, as David just said. And coming in at number 3 for me, so this is where we do our back and forth. I went with Michael Phelps. Like, I absolutely agree.
You had Phelps at 3.
To me, 1, 2, and 3 are all the same, and I'll tell you why. Like, I mean, come on. I could argue that he's a top Olympian. I mean, I really could. But number 2 for me was Usain Bolt.
You got Bolt over?
Yeah,
okay.
I can flip and I can flop, but I'm going to go with number 1 with Jesse Owens because of the conditions, what he had to deal with, what he did at that time. I felt like, to me, when you are running under, there's always this pressure, right, at number 1, but you're running under these racist conditions, and it was hard. I couldn't even imagine what he had to deal with, but yet he pressed on and was able to get 4 gold medals in spite of. And so to me, I put it in perspective. It paved the way for the Usain Bolts and the Michael Phelps and everyone else. So that was my top 5.
It's a well-constructed argument. I have no complaints with it. Here we go. Our top 5 back-to-back. Harry went Jesse Owens, Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps. I went Michael Phelps, Usain Bolt, Jesse Owens.
I did all the same.
Pavo Nurmi thrown in on the side.
Yeah.
Carl Lewis, yada, yada. So, what do we have here? We got Frank Caliendo as our guest critiquer.
There it is.
What your thoughts on the top 5s, Frank?
Well, I thought we'd do a little Morgan Freeman. Figure out what's the best way to possibly do it. But I don't know if you mentioned that I was going to be on the fantasy football thing that's coming up too.
Yes,
you're going to get to that. Frank trying to plug himself and not giving all the anchors their turn to do what they need to do. See, that was just terrible. And I was going Charles Barkley. It's never your top 5 lists are knuckleheaded lists. Very, very good, but in a way kind of average. But then Caliendo, what it did was just stole what you said. So here we go.
Who do we have?
We're going to take a look at number 5 of the greatest athletes of all time in the Olympics. I would have to say, Larissa Latinina. I'm not even sure how to say it. I just wanted to try and pronounce it.
A lot of fun today.
I wasn't sure if that was the way to go.
Well, you
Usain
went with,
Bolt. Never has a better name been for a man than Usain Bolt. And, of course, Sean O'Neill, table tennis.
Oh, yeah.
He's a friend of mine. That's why I put it
Like,
I just want to make it Michael Phelps because we're on SportsCenter. You have to mention Michael Phelps and Jesse Owens, a man who ran in the most difficult conditions of all time and came away with 4 gold medals and 2 world records. There we go.
There you go.
Again, Sean O'Neill is
he's a friend. He taught me how to play table tennis, taught me to play ping pong. So
Eddie Medals or Eddie?
No. The medals aren't important. It's not winning that's important at the Olympics. It's participating. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, Sean O'Neill, my bad.